Greetings, YouTube. Happy Tuesday, technically from the United States. Although, if you're waking up across the pond, good morning. It's been Tuesday for a while now. Here's the deal. Every once in a while, I would say every couple weeks, maybe, I am going through my lineup messages, which is my routine before I go to bed, trying to clear out as much as possible, answer questions, etc. And someone sends me something that is just so significant, I feel compelled to do a video about it, even though I'm in my pajamas, which, trust me, is a sight you don't want to imagine. So this is from Chip Danger Cockaroo, and it is titled No More Gates in Act 6. And this is a combination of a screenshot with also further explanation below. And if that sounds confusing, we're going to break this down together. 5 and 6 star requirements offered no benefit, only a hindrance, and thus felt arbitrary. The specific utility required, blah, blah. All right, so this entire post, when you scroll down, and I will pin this Reddit link in a comment underneath this video, so you can check this all out yourself. But it says, important clarification info. Just to clear any confusion, based on the info we currently have, the post regarding no more gates currently only applies to 6.3 and hopefully 6.4 going forward. The boosts are only available to use in 6.3. Method of acquisition for the boost is still unclear, but there are some scattered around the maps themselves. So far, only 5 and 6 stars are going to be allowed in 6.3. I assume that will stand for 6.4 as well, so that's no surprise having the 4-star gates. But the specific 5 and 6 star gates we saw in 6.2. Well, I do feel that based on the pain points they have taken away from 6.2, I'm guessing it should say main points, there's still chance for 6.2 class rarity gates. Okay, so here we go. Hello, beta testers. I'm here to talk to you all about our design goals for this chapter of Act 6, chapter 6.3, right? We want to shed some light on these partly as context for what you're going to play and also to give some insight into why of this content. Think of it as a more intimate developer thoughts. First things first, Act 6, Chapters 1 and 2, we took a hard look at how these are designed with goals in mind and why they've been received the way they have. As a team, we identified a few core frustrations we wanted to address. 5 and 6 star requirements offered no benefit, only a hindrance, and thus felt arbitrary. Thank you. It's like people on YouTube were saying that immediately or something. Ha! What a concept. The specific utility required by some paths, coupled by the 5 and 6 star requirements, created a sense of get lucky or spend. You mean the entire sense behind what your game is based off of as the way to complete, I'm guessing, is that what it says? There we go, and explore this content. The range of utility needed created a sense that unless you had every champion at a very high level, this content was out of reach, which was another main concern expressed in so many different YouTube videos, forum posts, etc. There are too many paths, meaning final bosses who are extremely challenging, and that's assuming they're not bugged, must be beaten 10 times. This demotivated many, including myself, from fully exploring Quest. We felt that these were the core issues we wanted to try and address with Chapter 3. We spent some time brainstorming interesting ways to address them while ensuring we continue to challenge and surprise you all, aka while we still make money off of this content. Part of this process yielded our pillars for Act 6. These pillars are guiding principles that we can filter every decision through. The idea is that if a decision does not service at least one of the pillars, it's not worth pursuing. We should note that pillars can absolutely change as we learn and adapt, but they are meant to be as static as possible. With that in mind, our pillars for Act 6, Chapter 3, and likely Chapter 4 are celebrate roster progression. As Act 6's in-game content, we do want to ensure roster that have reached a certain level of maturity before the content is doable, but this manifested differently in Chapters 1 and 2 than this pillar is meant to suggest, and those our approach took the form of you must be this tall to ride, but in Chapter 3 and onwards, we want to explicitly celebrate all the hard work you put into developing your roster. By the way, hard work also is code for all the hard money you have given us, unless you're a free-to-play player, I guess. Your roster by providing a place for that strength to shine. Encourage new gameplay strategies. This one is something we've done for some time, as we have seen in the global buffs thus far, but we felt it would be important to codify it in our pillars. This may mean we want to find new rhythms in fights to encourage you to rethink the very mechanics of the game or encourage using your champions in a way you may not have thought of before. We want Act 6 to be a place of content that feels unique and has its own identity among other types of content in the contest. Static challenges, evolving answers. This is also a new ethos for building this content. This means creating content that is able to have new ways to approach it for years to come. MCOC is not going anywhere anytime soon, so we want Act 6 to be an ever-changing piece of content as the game around it evolves. More on how this applies to Chapter 3 in a moment. Speaking of Boost, there it is. This brings us to this beta. With these pillars in mind, we worked as a team to come up with the concept of Karina's Scrolls, powerful mode-specific boosts that play into the class wheel to empower champions with some pretty crazy abilities. These boosts are intended to propel you to some new levels of power in order to tackle some of the most difficult content we've ever made, while at the same time challenging you to find the best place to use them. Our theme for Chapter 3 is limited empowerment. We want you to explore the possibilities of your roster without feeling like you're hopeless unless you have a 6-star rank 2 Corvus Glaive. Humble brag. What a weird editorial. If you have an insane roster, this will just be icing on the cake, but if you're still working on expanding your 455 roster, we want you to still be able to play and enjoy the challenge. So how does the design of these boosts target our pillars? Celebrate roster progression. Because the boosts target a class and not specific champions, we are aiming to simply highlight the best of a given class in your roster, not the best of a given class in the game. Some champions in a class will still be able to capitalize on the effects of the boost more than others, but it was important to us that the class as a whole was made measurably more viable by these boosts. Encourage new gameplay strategies. Many of the boost effects offer a seemingly counterintuitive effect or a condition specific enough to make you think, how can I do that? This is the mentality we are trying to achieve by creating boosts that target archetypes of classes and broad gameplay states. We hope to create an ecosystem that encourages experimentation and discovery. Sounds like a college freshman dorm room. Static challenge, evolving answers. All the boosts have been designed using much of the same elements that go into determining what types of abilities each class of champions have. There's plenty of detail in that process, but this basically means these boosts don't target specific champions. They target specific abilities that each class typically has. This means that as new champions are released, their abilities can interact with these boosts. The same goes for our ongoing changes to older champions such as She-Hulk, Luke Cage, Colossus, and more. The challenge you face will remain the same, but the tools are at your disposal, will constantly be evolving or having new light shed on them. All right, as you can see, when we go on down, there's more to this post, but I have a feeling that you're probably sick of hearing me read, and it's almost 1 a.m. my time, so I'm sick of hearing myself read. No shocker there. But at the same time, I want to point out that the point of this post is not all of these paragraphs that I just read out, but really the most important point is the idea that Act 6 gates don't help anybody and actually defeat the purpose of what so many of the Kabam forum posts in the past have told us, which is that they don't want us to have a specific few amount of champions to be able to beat content, and yet too often, whether that be Corvus or Ghost, etc., that's what it feels like. So, what do you think, YouTube? Is it better late than never, or do you wish this was the case in Act 6.2, where, of course, those gates still exist? Comment below, let me know, and as always, if you're suffering from insomnia, I apologize, but at least you're on the Prof. Hoff Insomnia Fan Club, which is a fancy way of saying you're probably watching this video because you can't fall asleep. Or you're waking up to biscuits and tea, or whatever they do across the pond. Sorry, it's a bunch of movie stereotypes. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Good night, YouTube.